Good day, everyone. Once again, I'm Mr. N, and I'll be teaching you today on how to solve quadratic equation by completing the square. So let's have recall this term, solution set, or what we call the roots. These are values of the variable that will satisfy the equation, and we can solve quadratic equations by extracting the square roots, by factoring, completing the square, or by using the quadratic formula. So this time, we're going to deal with completing the square. Once again, solving quadratic equations by completing the square. If the expression ax squared plus bx plus c is a perfect square trinomial, it can be factored out into two identical binomial factors. So let's have examples. So tingnan nyo yung nasa pinaka-left side na expressions. You have x squared plus 4x plus 4, x squared minus 10x plus 25, 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Madali lang siyang identify kung siya ay perfect square trinomial. Bakit? Kailangan ma-factor niyo siya or makuha niyo yung factors niya identically. So we have two binomial factors that are identical. So let's have example number 1. X squared plus 4x plus 4. So para mas mabilis ma-factor ang isang perfect square trinomial, ang kailangan nyo lang gawin ay kunin yung square root ng first term at saka square root ng last term. Okay? Ano square root ng first term? X. Very good. What about the square root of the last term? The square root of 4. Yes, it should be positive or negative 2. But you need to consider the sign of the middle term. The sign of the middle term is positive. So meaning to say we're going to use the positive sign. So meaning to say positive 2. So pagsamahin natin, meaning to say x plus 2. So therefore, the factors of x squared plus 4x plus 4 are x plus 2 and x plus 2. And as you can see, they are identical. Identical binomial factors. So you can check if your factors are correct by FOIL method. So x times x squared. And then last term tayo, 2 times 2 is 4. And then getting the middle term, inner term muna tayo, 2 times x is 2x. And then last outer terms, x times 2 is 2x. So add nyo yun, 2x plus 2x, that's 4x, the middle term. Okay? So we're correct. And now, let's rewrite that factors as a square of binomials. So we can just do this. Quantity x plus 2 raised to 2. Let's have another one, number 2. Number 2, again, since a perfect square trinomial, so it will be easy for us to get the factors of that given equation by squaring the first and last term. Square root of x squared. The square root of 25 is what? Positive 25. Ang square root niya ay positive or negative 5. But you need to consider again the sign of the middle term, and the sign is negative. So we're just going to use the negative sign. So meaning to say negative 5. So x negative 5 joined together, x minus 5. So therefore, the factors of x squared minus 10x plus 25 are x minus 5 and x minus 5. So we can rewrite that into or as a square of binomial. So we have quantity x minus 5 raised to 2. Okay, so now let's have the next example. Example number 3. So we have 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. So as you can see, yung a natin is greater than 1, which is 4. But still, just stick with the process. We're just going to get the square root of the first term and then the last term. The square root of the first term, 4x squared, okay, should be 2x. And then what about the last term, square root? The square root, yes, positive or negative 3. So considering the sign of the middle term, which is positive, we're going to use the positive sign. So meaning to say 2x plus 3. So we have now the identical binomial factors. All we need to do is write that as a square of binomial. So quantity 2x plus 3 squared. Okay? Any question? So ganyan mag-factor ng perfect square trinomial. I-square nyo lang yung first term and last term and considering, or you will just consider the sign of the middle term. That's it. Okay? Now, what will happen if the given equation is not a perfect square trinomial? Dito na papasok yung completing the square. Yan. What if the expression in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is not a perfect square trinomial. So follow the simple steps to complete the square for ax squared plus bx plus blank. So as you can see, missing si constant. So to find that, ito yung 3 easy steps. These are the 3 easy steps. Okay, to get the value of the constant term, first step, take the half of the numerical coefficient of the linear term, or b. And step number 2, square the value you obtain. And then step number 3, add it to your expression. So sa step number 1, hanapin nyo lang yung kalahati ng b ninyo that can be found in the linear term. And then after that, after finding the half of the b or the coefficient in the linear term, square nyo yun. So then after squaring it, so that's it. You just need to add it to your expression. Okay? So let's have this example. Find the value of c to complete the square for x squared minus 12x plus c. So using the steps that we had, we have step number 1. Step number 1, just get the half of b, or the coefficient of the linear equation, the linear term. So the half of it is -6. So after getting -6, we're going to square it. Oh, sorry. Square -6, and it will become positive 36. Okay, now step number 3. Step number 3, we're just going to add it to your expression. So x squared minus 12x, just add positive 36, so it will become x squared minus 12x plus 36. Any question? Okay, none. Very good. Now let's have example number 2. Solve x squared minus 12x plus 35 is equals to 0 by completing the square. So let's have the solution. Since x squared minus 12x plus 35 is not a perfect square trinomial, we are going to get the perfect square trinomial of the term on the left. So para magawa natin yon, we're going to remove the 35 on the left side. Okay? Because hindi niya ginagawang perfect square trinomial yung buong expression sa left side. Because 35 is not a perfect square. So meaning to say, you need to remove that. And by doing that, so we're going to use the addition property of equality. We're going to add the opposite of 35 on the left side, which is -35. So we have -35 on the left, and since you added -35 on the left, you should add also on the right by addition property of equality. So now, simplify. Combining like terms, so we have now x squared minus 12x, -35 plus 35 is equal to 0. And then 0 plus -35 is -35. So we have now this resulting equation. This time, we're going to make the expression on the left a perfect square trinomial by finding its last term. Okay? Yung last term na magpapas perfect square trinomial sa kanya. So, this time, we're going to use the steps that we had a while ago. Now, since you add a certain number that makes the expression on the left a perfect square trinomial, you need to add also on the right kung ano inad mo dun sa may left side. Okay? So now, let's follow the steps to find the last term that will make the expression on the left a perfect square trinomial. So, step number 1. So we're going to make this expression a perfect square trinomial. So, step number 1, get 1/2 of b, or the coefficient in the linear term. And the 1/2 of -12 is, -6. And after that, let's have step number 2. We're going to square the result. The square of -6 is positive 36. And we're done. We're just going to add it to our expression. So it will become x squared minus 12x plus 36. And now, going back to our original equation, we're just going to add 36 on the left side and By addition property, you need to add also on the right. So it will become x squared minus 12x plus 36 is equals to negative 35 plus 36. Okay, now let's simplify. We're going to combine like terms, and as you can see, class, we don't have like terms on the left side, but we do have on the right. So negative 35 plus 36, the answer is 1. And now we have x squared minus 12x plus 36 equals to 1. Okay, so now all we need to do is factored out the expression on the left to get the two identical binomials. Okay, so what are the identical binomial factors of the expression on the left? So ang gagawin lang natin, yung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, we just need to get the square root of the first term and then the square root of the last terms. Then, consider the sign of the middle term. So, let's do it. What is the square root of x? Very good, x yun. What is the square root of 36? Okay, it could be positive 6 or negative 6. So, now let's consider the sign of the middle term. It's negative, right? So, meaning to say we're going to use the negative sign. So, negative 6. So, pagsamahin natin sila, so it will become x minus 6. So, meaning to say the factors of x squared minus 12x plus 36 are x minus 6 and x minus 6. Okay? So, now, we already have this quantity x minus 6 times the quantity x minus 6 equals to 1. So, this time we're going to rewrite the expression on the left as the square of binomial. Okay? Ano yung target natin dito? Kasi kailangan natin ma-solve for x, right? So, ang target natin dito is makagawa tayo ng quadratic equation na naka-form in x squared is equals to k. Okay, tapos gagamitin natin yung concept ng extracting the square roots. So, now we have quantity x minus 6 raised to 2 is equals to 1. So, this time, as you can see, yung quantity na yan, yung nasa loob ng parenthesis na yan, we can consider that as x. So, x squared na siya, no? And then, is equals to 1. Yung 1 natin could be the k. So, we already had the form of x squared is equals to k. So, this time, we're just going to apply the square root property. In that case, we're going to square root both sides of the equation. So, square root of quantity x minus 6 raised to 2 is equals to the square root of 1. And then simplify, we can just easily cancel out the radical sign and the exponent, right? So, square root niya is x minus 6. And then, the square root of 1 could be positive or negative 1. Okay? So, now, by addition property of equality, we're going to remove negative 6 on the left. Para mapunta siya sa right side, we're going to add opposite of negative 6, which is positive 6, no? Both sides of the equation. So, we have 6 plus x minus 6 equals to positive or negative 1 plus 6 by addition property of equality. And now let's simplify. 6 minus 6 is 0, so meaning to say x will be left, no? Dun sa ating left side. And then on the right side, we cannot easily combine the positive or negative plus 6, no? Kasi meron tayong two signs doon sa ating 1. So meaning to say, we need to separate them before we simplify. Ayan. So now let's separate them first. So we have the negative 1 plus 6, and on the other side, we have positive 1 plus 6. And now, it is time for us to simplify. Negative 1 plus 6 is positive 5, and then 1 plus 6 is 7. Meaning to say, class, the roots of the given quadratic equation are 5 and 7. So we can just simply write our answer in this form. SS, or solution set, 5 and 7. Okay? So, any question? Yeah, okay, very good. So, let's have the next example. Find the roots of 2x squared plus 8x minus 16 is equals to 0. Okay, so we have this case where a is greater than 1, meaning to say, we should make it first as equal to 1. So, we should make a be equal to 1. So, to do that, since katabi niya sa x squared, so, ang pinaka-way na gagawin natin is we should divide, no, the whole equation or both sides of the equation by 2. Okay, so we're going to divide both sides of the equation by 2. So divide 2, divide 2, divide 2, and divide 2. So now let's simplify. We're just going to divide so we can just easily cancel out the 2 beside x squared. So we have now x squared, and then 8x divided by 2 is 4x, negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. So we have now the resulting equation, x squared plus 4x minus 8 is equals to 0. Okay, so that's it. Now, let's see no, kung ito ay perfect square trinomial. What is the square root of x squared? Very good. X. What about what is the square root of negative 8? Okay, negative 8 is not a perfect square trinomial. So, we need to remove negative 8 there para makapaglagay tayo ng panibagong number to make it a perfect square trinomial. So, ililipat natin sa negative 8 sa right side by addition property of equality. So, we should add opposite of negative 8 on the left side first. And we should add also on the right side by addition property of equality. And now simplify, combining like terms. So we have 8 and negative 8, and that will be 0. So we have just now, we have now x squared plus 4x is equals to 0 plus 8 is 8. And that's it. And now, it's time for us to find the last term no, of the expression on the left to make it a perfect square trinomial. So make it PST, so perfect square trinomial. So we need to add a certain number on the left side to make it a perfect square trinomial. But since by addition property of equality, you need also to add on the right side. Now let's move on. Let's solve. Okay. So again, our goal is to make x squared plus 4x plus blank a perfect square trinomial. So step number 1, get the 1/2 of b or the numerical coefficient in the linear term. And the numerical coefficient in the linear term or the value of b is 4. So what is the half of 4? The half of 4 is 2. So now proceed to step number 2. We're going to square it. The square of 2 is 4. Okay, very good. Now in step 3, we're just going to add the result no, to our expression. So we have x squared plus 4x plus 4. And that's it. So we already make the expression on the left a perfect square trinomial. So going back to our original equation, we have this one. And by addition property of equality, whatever you add on the left, you should add also on the right. Okay, so we add positive 4 on the left. That's why we need to add positive 4 also on the right. Next, simplify. Okay, simplify. We have now x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then 8 plus 4 is equals to 12. Okay, so we have x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equals to 12. In this case, we just need to get the identical binomial factors of the expression on the left and then express it as a square of binomial. So square root of x is x, and then square root of 4 is 2. And considering the sign of the middle term, which is positive, we're going to use the positive sign. So we have x plus 2, then squared. That's the square of binomial is equals to 2. And now, applying the exacting square roots, no, we can just simply square root both sides of the equations. So we can just simply cancel out the radical sign and the exponent 2. So we have x plus 2 on the left and positive or negative square root of 12. So this time, class, as you can see, 12 is not a perfect square trinomial. But you can simplify it by finding the factors of 12 that has a perfect square. Okay, so let's see. So we factored out 12. So we have 4 and 3. So what are the factors of 4 and, what are the square root of 4 and 3? So we have now square root of 4 and square root of 3. So as you can see, class, I just distributed no the radical sign or the square root sign by law of radicals. Kung naalala ninyo, we can just simply distribute the radical sign. No? So let's find the square root of the two numbers. Square root of 4 is positive or negative 2. And then square root of 3, since 3 is not a perfect square, as is na lang siya dyan, di na siya babaguhin. Although meron siyang perfect square, although meron siyang square root, kaso nga lang, you need to use a scientific calculator to get that. And the result will be a decimal number. So now we have x plus 2 is equals to x positive or negative 2 square root of 3. Okay? And now, let's find the value of x. So, kailangan matira na lang si x sa may left side. And to do that, we just need to remove 2 on the left. Now, to remove that, we're going to use the addition property of equality. We're going to add the opposite of 2 no, sa left side. And that is negative 2. Negative 2. And then you add the negative 2 on the left. That's why you need also to add on the right. So, negative 2. So, now simplify by combining like terms. We have x, since negative 2 plus 2 is 0, is equals to, okay, since 2 square root of 3 and negative 2 are unlike unlike term, meaning to say, we cannot combine them. As you can see, yung 2 square root of 3, meron siyang radical. So, in that case, we're going to treat the radical sign as variable. So, meaning to say, hindi natin siya pwedeng i-add sa negative 2 kasi yung negative 2 wala siyang radical. Okay? So, now, let's find the value of x. So, as you can see, dalawa yan. We have positive and negative to square root of 3. So, to find the value of x, we need to separate them first before we simplify. So, we already separated them. But as you can see, class, hindi na siya masisimplify kasi wala nang pwedeng i-combine. In that case, yan yung final answer natin. But class, although yan na yung final answer, kaso nga lang minsan kasi nagkakaroon ng misunderstanding kapag nandito, nasa unahan yung may radical. Kasi kapag napahaba mo ng konti yung bobong ng radical sign mo, pwedeng isipin nakasama si minus 2, di ba? Pwedeng kasama. So, ang gagawin natin dyan, class, kailangan naka-write or nakasulat yung inyong radical sign doon sa dulo. As you can see, it becomes negative 2 minus 2 square root of 3. Okay? Pero syempre, hindi pa rin maapektuhan yung mga signs nila. And then, on the right side, we have negative 2 plus 2 square root of 3. So, ganyan yung way nyo siya isusulat. Nasa dulo yung may radical. Para kahit gaano pa kahaba yung bubong ng radical sa inyo, walang maapektuhan. Okay? So, now we have the solution set. The roots are negative 2 minus 2 square root of 3 and negative 2 plus 2 square root of 3. Or simply, our solution set, negative 2 square root of 3 and negative 2 plus 2 square root of 3. Okay? Okay, so we're done. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from this discussion.